Well, hey there, my friends. I started this YouTube channel way back in around 2010, back before I needed these reading glasses. I started this channel when my son, my teenage son, was a baby, and I thought it would give me something to do. I could share my thoughts, upload things that I find interesting, and I did. Back in the early days, I talked a lot about prepping, making sure that you have enough food and stockpile water, things like that. And I eventually merged into discussing a lot more about the occult and religion and trying to find my place in the world. And even back then, as a 30 something adult, I really thought that I had some of this shit figured out. And I could say that I'm 47, so in 2010, I was 35 years old. I was going through a little bit of anxiety during that time in my life. I would get butterflies in my stomach. I would worry about things, sometimes rightly so. There was a period of time where I got in trouble for having mushrooms, and I was on probation for 2 years, where I had to quit smoking cannabis, and I was taking drug tests randomly, had to call in each day. Throughout that entire time, all the things that have happened to me, trials and tribulations, getting married, having kids, all this has been documented on my YouTube channel. And yet, I still cringe at the thought of calling myself a YouTuber. I believe that would be like a media channel calling themselves, the network that they put their, put their thoughts on. It's not about the medium that you exchange or the medium that you use to share your thoughts. It's about the thoughts themselves. So I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just a person who happened to find YouTube and use it as my medium, my outlet. And I've done a lot of thinking over the however many videos I've made. And I've done a lot of thinking about all these videos I've made. And I've asked myself, why do you do this? You're not making a living off of it. You're not doing it for the fame. You're not doing it just to talk about controversial shit or get attention because you brought up something that was, a topic of modernity. It was more like I wanted a place to just share my thoughts of the day. I wanted a place where I could just turn on the camera and say, this is how I feel about emotion. This is how I feel about politics. This is how I feel about everything in my life. And I've been able to do that. Minus just a few topics, which YouTube has kindly censored for me, having to do with, say, cannabis or kratom. They've kind of eased back on those and made them for adults only. Basically just bury them now instead of giving you a strike for it. But there are some topics that I've wanted to discuss that I haven't been able to. But that's why I started my own podcast, so I can share thoughts about, vaccines or anything else in a way that I don't have to worry or, if you put a lot of time into making a video and it gets deleted and there's nowhere to share it, you can imagine that being a frustrating thing. But for a guy like me who's just talking to the camera, oh well, it's a half an hour of time, right? But it's much more than that. I don't think people realize that sometimes when I make a video, a lot of the time, I will spend hours, if not days, taking notes before I make a video. And I'm not talking, obviously, of sitting. It's like when an artist said, oh, it took me a year to make this. No. You worked on it for a year, on and off, for maybe 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. That's different. That's kind of how it is for me. When I have an idea I want to share, I sit on it, and I process it, and I do a bunch of research as much as possible through the internet or wherever, and learn as much as I can about the topic. And mostly it's just to make sure that I'm not getting overexcited about something that maybe I don't have the full picture of. And oh, let me tell you how many times this has happened. There's a reason I don't cover any new topic or anything that's going on right now, generally. It's because I don't know the full story. It's not because I'm afraid of being wrong. It's not because I'm afraid of being called out for making a mistake or, aha, I told you so. It's not that at all. I enjoy being wrong. When people can point out where I was incorrect about something and give me actual data to prove me wrong, that to me is a win. Because I believe argument and debate are firmly to gain more awareness and intellect about a topic that you than you previously had. And discussing it with other people can only go so far, but bouncing ideas off of people and planting that seed, an idea, a person might come back to you a year later, 10 years later, and say, hey, that thing you said to me, that I said you're a dumb shit and you're wrong, you might be right. This is what it should be about. It's not about being right to prove another person wrong or to put them down. It's about being right so everyone's right. And so, in a way, what I've always tried to do with this channel is talk about a topic that I think really is open ended and something that is on the top of my mind and see what other people think. And you have not let me down. The people who subscribe to my channel are some of the most amazing people that I could ever ask for as subscribers. I'm not going to give names because all of you, from subscribers who are, new, only a few months, maybe people who recently started commenting, all the way back to people who have been with me for the full 13 freaking years. Your comments are awesome. And I know I have a lot of lurkers, people who watch my videos that don't comment. I know I have a lot of people who do comment regularly. Some people who comment for a while then stop. I know people who have commented that I've probably been rude to and said things I shouldn't because I disagreed, and I apologize if that's the case. I guess what I'm doing is I'm trying to open every avenue of dialogue here to realize and impress upon you that the reason why I do this is so we can all be better people. It's not about fame. It's not about fortune. You know that. But it's also not about bullshitting you. And it doesn't matter whether a person's trying to make money or whether a person's, does talk about media or news or modern topics. The problem is when people make shit up. We have the Alex Jones of the world, right? The people who can be right once or twice, and then the rest of everything they do is just ignored. All the times they were wrong. You think about the camp. I can't get into that, but I think it was Harold Camp who was this, this Christian quote prophet who kept claiming that the end times are coming. The end times are coming. And he was wrong every time. And every time he was wrong, he would just push the date forward. And still to this day, he's talking about how the end's coming, the end's coming. The sky is falling, right? This makes up a huge amount of what we hear on the news. This makes up a huge amount of what we hear on the internet in general. That people want to complain about anything they can to make everyone seem like everyone's just completely miserable and the whole world's falling apart and everything sucks now. And you know what? It doesn't. It doesn't have to for you. It doesn't have to for me. The world's going to change and we have to change with it. We can lend our opinions, but generally, if you're resisting what is, then you're missing what could be. Because if we build our lives resisting everything around us, nothing gets achieved. But if we spend our lives accepting and understanding, with a degree of motivation, and I guess this is why I've mentioned in the past, made jokes about activists or those people gluing their hands to, the ground. This isn't activism. Activism would be being active and getting out there and actually doing something. But it's a great metaphor for what happens online. People act like they are truthers, they're activists, they want to change the world. But when you get right down to it, what they're looking for is their next sponsor. Which VPN is going to sponsor their video? Or, how are they going to get enough supporters to make their talking behind a microphone lucrative and worthwhile? And maybe I'm a little biased, and maybe I'm also a little arrogant about it because I enjoy speaking to you all. I enjoy having you listen, and I know there's a part of that that is has to be enough self-confidence to know that what I say has some relevance and bearing in some people's lives. Even if 90% of my viewers don't agree with a particular topic or don't relate to it, I will still upload it because there are a few people out there, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Once in a while, I upload a random video that has really nothing to do with any of my general topics. It's because down the line, somebody will find that, a person who needs to find that, and hopefully it will benefit them. But there's part of me that says, who the fuck am I to tell people what's right and what's wrong, what's better or worse, how to be, happy in life? Who am I? I'm just an individual. I can't live through your eyes. I can't see the reality you see, and I never will. So the best I can do is try to compare myself to others based on this homogeneity we have, these connections and the similar, attributes that we have, and say, well, maybe, just maybe, other people can benefit from taking a deep breath. Maybe other people can benefit from seeing themselves in a respectable light and not putting themselves down. These things that we learn in our day-to-day life that we want to pass on to others, but that just becomes so difficult to express because everything is so fast-paced now. And I think it's really important that we sit down, take a deep breath sometimes, and just ask ourselves, how can I be more content? And many of the things that I discuss, the hope is to not point out the flaws in the world just for the sake of saying, look at how fucked up things are. When I do talk about the flaws in the world, is to say either A, we need to step up to the plate and do something about this, or B, we really should stop worrying about this because it's out of our circle of influence. We can't control it. So learning to deal with the things we can control and ignoring those we can't can be a very valuable lesson. At any rate, I have said what I have to say. I wanted to thank you. This video is basically just a thank you to my subscribers. I, like most of you, if you follow my channel on YouTube, you probably follow other channels on YouTube. It's how it is. Everybody uses YouTube. And when I flip through various, even some of the more mundane or, non-controversial videos, the comment section can be full of people saying the most horrendous and stupid things to each other, just trying to get attention, just trying to make a point. When I look at my comment section, it's full of well thought out, rational, and inclusive and kind comments that I feel like I've built a respectable circle of subscribers. And I just want to say this, it doesn't go unseen. It doesn't go unnoticed. I really appreciate you all. It's you guys, the subscribers, that makes my channel worth continuing. Because even though I talk about these topics in general, because I want to express myself and talk about things, I know, and you know, that we do this because we get feedback. And the positive feedback I get is overwhelming. And I appreciate it. And I love you all, and I'll talk to you all next time. Be well.